Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Blind Spots. I'm your host, Gail McDonald, and today I am here with a very special guest who I invited on because someone referred to him as Red Bull for your heart. So I cannot wait to speak with Andy. I am so excited that he's on our show. And a little bit about Andy is a sought after professional speaker, author, life change coach, podcast host, and comedian. I wonder what Andy does in his spare time. Knowing for his engaging and humorous approach to personal development while bringing laughter and insight to life's challenges. He empowers individuals and organizations to embrace their unique traits through his message to own your awkward. And I think most of us have had our fair share of awkward in our lives. So, Andy, I am so happy that you're here with us today, and I can't wait to share your message with the guests. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun here today. So, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Gail. I am super excited to be here, and that Red Bull for your heart. I'm gonna have to get that on a T-shirt or something. That's just,
Yeah, you
sometimes the
will.
compliments people give you when you think through the wording, I'm like, that is just wow. That really,
Yeah, yeah.
really, really feeling it. So thank you for having me. I'm excited. We've gotten to know each other a little bit, and I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, likewise. And isn't it amazing how we spoke for a mere 7 or 8 minutes prior
Mhm.
to recording? And to me, Andy, I just felt like we had met before and and became friends real quick. It
Definitely.
just,
I
yeah.
think also when you surround yourself by good-hearted people,
Hmm.
anybody that those good-hearted people are attracting
Hmm.
are instantly very similar and easy to connect with. So it's just a natural fit as you branch out from that
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And to me, I think of the atom and I think of Atomic Habits by James Clear and how he
Hmm.
refers to an atom. And can we have atomic connection when a person has that similar energy to us?
Yeah.
I really feel that that's a thing. It's the atoms are the things that we can't see, but my goodness, you and I both know that there is that almost instant connection where you just
Hmm.
feel comfortable with that individual. And I had a really good
Yeah.
first 7 minutes with you, and no one will know what we said. So it's just between you and I,
Exactly. You'll just all have to wonder. But it
right?
was good. It was great conversation.
Yeah, yeah, so interesting. So Andy, awkward. Wow. Even that word sounds awkward. Um,
Right.
what what does it mean to own your awkward? That's a really interesting statement. So if you were to share with the audience, what exactly do you mean by owning your awkward?
Well, for me, it's all about just really being
Mm,
not just being yourself, but being okay being yourself.
mm,
And we all have this little quirky, weird insecurity thing that
mhm,
when we walk into a room full of people, we might feel a little bit funny about, or
mm.
it might be in the back of our head that, oh, I hope they don't notice. Maybe it's the spill on my shirt. Maybe it's a personality trait. Maybe it's
Yeah,
I hear it sometimes age, sometimes size. Sometimes we're the biggest person in the room, and sometimes we're the smallest,
yeah.
or we're the oldest, or we're the youngest.
Hmm.
Yet the person on the opposite end of that is looking up to us for being different in that way that they're not.
Oh.
And when we learn to lean into it, it becomes our superpower. If I walk
Mm,
into a room full of people and I'm the biggest person there, I could be thinking, man, I wish I could just blend in sometimes. I wish people would not notice me the instant I walk in the room. And meanwhile, there might be the smallest person in the room thinking, I wish people wouldn't overlook me. And look at that person over there and how no one misses them. But we don't see that. And it's usually the thing that people love the most about us. And it's not always
mm,
physical. Sometimes it's we're very introverted or very
mhm.
extroverted or whatever that thing can be. And I feel like authenticity has become a bit of a buzzword and it comes becomes kind of watered down. But if we just say, we all got an awkward thing, let's lean into it. We can relate to that. I say, oh yeah, I've had an awkward moment in my day this morning, or I've always felt awkward about a particular thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Well put. And I tend to agree with you on the word authenticity and just how it defines or maybe misses defining how we can be our true selves. Because when people are thinking about their awkwardness,
Hmm.
you aren't, we may not be as willing to share our awkward traits. And then how can we be authentic?
Exactly. Yeah, and for me, it comes down to a barrier to trust. If we are
Mm,
not being truly authentic and we're not being fully transparent and vulnerable to the place that's safe, we don't have to bare our soul to every person we meet the second we meet them. But let's say I'm talking to you and I feel self-conscious because I spilled on my shirt, and so I'm holding back a little bit or angling
mhm,
different or something that is pulling away.
mhm,
Unfortunately, what's happening in your mind tends to be Andy's hiding something from me. I can't
mm,
trust Andy because of something that he's not fully opening up to me about or connecting with me. That level of chemistry that we had in our 7 minute conversation is gone
mhm,
because I'm holding back.
mhm.
Now, if I were to say, you know what, Gail, I spilled mustard all down the front of my shirt, and I'm sure that you are seeing it, but that it was a good hot dog. Like I love the hot dog, and as you can see, I'm going to be wearing it all day. Now that's out of the way, and you no longer are wondering what I'm trying to hide from you, which I wouldn't even be able to hide anyway because you can see it on the front of my shirt. Yeah, and it diffuses the situation, and
Yeah.
now we have trust. And I see that with relationships. I see that in workplaces where we try to kind of poise and show up in a certain way, and
Mhm.
yet that poising and over perfection is actually getting in the way of relationships. It's getting in the way of our success, and all because it's getting in the way of our connection.
That's powerful. Very
I will
powerful.
say that I wish that I could say that I, you know, went on a journey and studied this for decades and came to these lessons. However, I knew that something was off in life and started realizing it was that awkward dynamic
Hmm.
and then started picking up all the lessons. And this is where, all of these things, these lessons have come from now years of conversations with people and studying how it affects people. And
Hmm.
I didn't realize when I started how powerful it would be. The power has grown. Wow, as the movement grows, as I talk to people, I've really learned just how important it is that we are authentic and that we just let that awkward thing shine and how
Yeah.
much it gets in the way of every part of our life.
Yeah. And there's the key to authenticity is owning your awkward.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So that's not something most people are willing to dive into very quickly or willingly. You are a coach, a podcast host, a comedian, a speaker, an author. You are all of those things. Would it be fair to refer to you as an entrepreneur or a solopreneur or, portfolio
Oh,
career individual? I don't know. But you're not
definitely.
corporate. You work
Right.
with
Yeah,
corporate. Yeah.
definitely. And I am very involved in our local and some online entrepreneur community
Yeah.
and coaching entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
most of them are solopreneurs. I
Uh-huh.
actually prefer for myself, I have a term I use, which is not just solopreneur, but a
Hmm.
lonepreneur.
Oh, okay.
In that, I know a lot of people who are solopreneurs yet their partner is bringing them coffee at the event, or someone is helping them carry the boxes in, or they have a long day working on their business and they come home and dinner's on the table. And it's just a little different when you are completely alone. And this is not a pity party, but it's just
Yeah.
a little different mix of, all on my own on this thing, and yet
Yeah.
not because of the community that I surround myself with. So that's
Hmm.
kind of the side is you create and build the support system so that you
Yeah.
aren't feeling alone, even though you're doing it alone.
Yeah. I love that. Even though you're doing it alone, you're not feeling alone. And
Yeah.
you choose to hang out with those communities. And you know Paul Hari as I do.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, Paul's going to be making a his presence known here in a couple of weeks and his idea of
Love it.
belonging. And you made a really good point about that, um, that you choose to belong
Right.
and you're you're doing it alone, but you're not alone. And I also appreciate as a coach what you said about learning from people, learning from clients, learning from the people you meet. I
Hmm.
I learned so many incredible things from my clients, and I'm forever grateful. They share these phrases or these quotes or, just something that's an aha moment for them. And it really does blow me away. And it's an education, and it's one that you can't easily get
Right.
in a bricks and mortar learning institution. It
Hmm.
is streetwise kind of
Right.
information, like just based on experience. And there's so much to be learned about human behavior. So,
Hmm.
Andy, this is something that I've never heard anyone do about owning your awkward. And then you've got so many facets that you share this with people, like all of the things that you do. What's the name of your book, by the way, before I forget?
So my latest book, it's called Own Your Awkward Thoughts.
Okay.
The subtitle is Master the Art of Reframing the Way You Think. And
Okay.
it's if people are watching the video, and I'll hold it up here if you're
Oh,
not
awesome.
listening,
Thank you
but
for doing that. Yeah.
it's
Okay.
if my son actually did the artwork for the cover with
Awesome.
the person looking at the brain in a frame, but it's got 60 days of guided reflections that help you shift the way you think. I
Yeah.
use an example a lot of, it'll say maybe you're sitting in a coffee shop and
Hmm.
you're feeling alone in the corner
Hmm.
while you look at everyone around you and you count all the people in the shop who haven't come up to you and said hello. And
Hmm.
you see people meeting their friends. Yet you forget that maybe you met a friend yesterday or you're meeting a friend a week from now. So you're not always alone. And then you do the math on the 15 people in the coffee shop that didn't come say hi to you and realize that's the same number of people you didn't go say hi to.
Ah,
So where's the power that we have in those moments to
yeah.
turn the conversation we're having in our head
Hmm.
to then actually take some power and like you said, choose to belong or choose
Yeah.
to take some action in whatever direction we want to go. So it has 60 days of reflections in different scenarios that were the rawest moments in some of the times I was feeling negative.
Okay.
And you can almost read through how I turned the conversation in my head, and then there's
Yeah.
reflection questions at the end
Hmm.
to think about to apply to your own situation, as well as six key questions that you can apply to anything, such as
Hmm.
what's a different ending I could write to this story I'm telling myself?
Oh,
Or what would
beautiful.
I tell my best friend?
Yeah. Great questions. So simple yet so powerful.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so, how did you then choose, which was where I was going in the first place until I
mhm.
wanted you to bring up your
Oh,
book.
sure.
But how did you decide that, well, I'm going to just start talking about being awkward? I mean, that's just not something most of us do on a
Sure.
regular
That's a
basis, right?
great question, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Initially, like we don't a lot of times when our lives take a journey, and we don't always say, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to have this architectural design, and that's how my life is going to look. Or we
Hmm.
might think that when we're young and
Hmm.
end up nowhere near where we started, which is
Yeah.
fine because the journey is the whole point.
Hmm.
However, about 10 years ago, had just started going through divorce, had been in a marriage that, for a lot of reasons wasn't a good relationship.
Hmm.
And I came out of the closet as gay. Was not, I didn't bring my best self to the marriage, and I also didn't demand the best for myself. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of things that
Hmm.
play there that,
Hmm.
I can live in a non-bitter place after lots of self-reflection and help, on where we are. A lot of good things came from that, my
Hmm.
kids and all that stuff. So I don't live in a lot of regrets around life. However, I realized that not just in my marriage, I've had a lot of relationships with, friends, family that weren't as good as they could be over the years, or my roles in my jobs I always got to a certain point but never broke past a certain level. And it's because there was a discomfort in being myself and holding back. And if we're not comfortable in who we are, how much energy are we spending considering how we show up? if I'm spending 30 to 40% of my energy thinking, I can't fully be myself today, I have to show up like this, I have to hold back on how I really feel about a situation because what are people going to think? Then I'm only really able to contribute 60 or 70%. And we all want to say we're giving 100%. We might be spending 200% of our energy and like feeling like we're spending so much, like well over 100%. Yet the results we're getting are 60 to 70%, or that we're giving and that other people are receiving. So I went through several life changes, and I had been working on a book which still hasn't come out, but it was actually going to be called The Awkward Interview. I still may finish it one of these days, but all about the things that we want to don't want to have to talk about in an interview and how that can hold us back and how to handle it.
Mhm.
So when I started my business, it was the first Father's Day after my divorce. I was having a pity party, not feeling great. My journal entry that day was called "Crappy Eggs, Burnt Potatoes, and Cold Toast," which was the breakfast I tried to make for myself, and just not that I couldn't cook, but so distracted, and no one's making you breakfast in bed as a dad. The first Father's Day after you come out and you're in the middle of a divorce is just not a good situation. I thought I'm gonna go online and at least I'm gonna buy myself my website and start my business. And even though I didn't do anything with it for a year, I bought awkwardcareer.com because at the
Okay.
time I was not going to talk about anything personal. I was just going to
Mhm.
talk about how to work on your career and approach it from a different way than other people have,
Mhm.
which was more my story. I didn't go to college. I worked my way up, always kind of worked through different angles. And then later, as I started sharing more personal stuff and starting my podcast, that turned into Own Your Awkward. And that message just resonated so quickly and instantly with people because with just those three words, it's a powerful statement and tells you exactly what you need to do. And it's a challenge to really step into yourself fully
Mhm.
without any explanation needed. And some people see it and they say, I do, I own my awkward, I love it. And other people look at it and say, oh, I want to. Tell me more. And that's become the crux of my whole business. And when I really stepped into speaking and then coaching, I bring everything back to do it your way, be yourself, and learn how to lean into those things that people may have told you, or more, even more damagingly, you probably told yourself that those things would hold you back. And yet they're actually the reason why you're going to thrive.
Wow. That really needs to be on a t-shirt too.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I couldn't agree with you more. Um, and so during our conversation before we actually started the show, we were talking a little bit about what holds people back. Like, what are their blind spots from owning their awkward?
Right.
I'm okay with it now. I own
Hmm.
every awkward, fun-loving, lovable thing about myself. Um, Only if people want to hear it. I mean, it's not,
Right.
it's like, boy, we could go on ad nauseum about ourselves, but
Hmm.
that's not polite. But it's just, it's that perspective of understanding that we are all in the same situation. There's none of us are perfect. Like that's not even a
Right.
thing. And so if you were to think about the the people that you've worked with and just some perhaps general feedback or things that you've noticed, if people are wanting to change some things, because most of us, I don't know, I'd like to be so bold as to say most of us know what we would like to change and we really want to
Mhm.
do it. Like you say, oh, I want to own my awkward, but oh, that's too awkward. Can't own my
Right.
awkward because it might be awkward.
Hmm.
Well, then
Right.
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say are uh, blind spots about,
Mm.
the things that get in the way that people just really,
Yeah.
they can't even take that first step.
I think one of the things that we don't often realize is that we are chasing someone else's dream. I call them borrowed dreams. We
Mm,
see these ideals of how we're supposed to be or what we're supposed to have, and we start adding those to our shopping list
mm,
without stopping and questioning, do I really want that thing?
mm.
And do I care enough about that thing to do the work that is required to attain it? And sometimes we start going after the prize and we get frustrated because there's so much work involved to get it, or we feel like, well, how come it's so hard for me to get
Mm.
that goal that I'm chasing? And yet it's okay to say, you know what? I don't want that bad enough to do the work
Yeah.
because I want this other thing, and this other thing makes me happy, and I don't have to have the car, the vacation home,
Hmm.
or and if I do want those things, or the gym body, or whatever the thing is,
Hmm.
we we don't have to chase it, and it's okay to say I'm happy with what I have, and I'm not going to let you make me feel like I'm less than everybody else because that's not going to fulfill me.
Hmm.
Sometimes the most freeing thing is when you see someone living a very simple, fulfilled life and they are content and happy. And I'm like, that person is rocking their life. And it doesn't mean that you can't have success in a financial way. Like that's the absence. It's just a matter of you have to be honest with yourself of if that's the thing that you really want. I have this conversation with a lot of clients where they're, say, for example, they're at odds with having to get up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. And I always say, you don't have to. And they're just like, what? I don't? I was like, no, you don't have to do that. And and they're like, oh, I said, well, you won't have that six-pack abs that you're chasing if you don't do that. I'm like, oh, it's like, but you have to be honest with yourself. Do you want that bad enough to set aside an hour of your day before you go to work or after you get home from work? Do you want that bad enough to skip other things? Maybe you enjoy time with your friends and go into happy hour, and that's a bigger value for you. So it's all about being honest with what we really value. And there's no right or wrong answer in that. But the right answer really, I guess, is just being honest with yourself and not taking someone else's ideals.
Mm. Wow. So I'm thinking comparing oneself.
Right.
And how do you see comparing ourselves to others
Mm,
as a burden and possibly a barrier to us even moving forward with our like our real life, like that life we want for
mhm.
ourselves with all of our beautiful awkwardness
Right.
that really to me means that's the true authenticity of a person. When you can be awkward and this works so well. I'm really, Andy, like own your awkward. You couldn't have thought of a better title because you
Right.
you do own the awkward.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting how I almost feel like it was accidental, but it was whatever recipe was going on in my life at the time that was the right terminology.
Hmm.
Um, I would say when we're looking at comparing, it's really dangerous because we're never seeing the full picture, and we're seeing the part of the picture that is appealing in the moment.
Mm.
And the danger is that you look at a room full of people and you're seeing one slice of their life, and we're
Yeah.
comparing what we see as the best slice of their life from 10 different people, and we want to put all of those things together and hold ourselves to that standard and expect
Hmm.
us to be the best of everybody else's lives.
Hmm.
And when we do that, we forget about the best part that we're bringing to the table. We
Hmm.
devalue that slice that other people see in us that we don't see.
Hmm.
When I do employee engagement workshops, one of my most popular exercises is a beach ball exercise. I use a beach ball and I stand in the middle of the room and I ask everybody, what colors they see. And, a beach ball has six stripes on it and they're all different colors. So everybody from around the room is seeing a different stripe. And I use that as a metaphor to how we show up in the world. Everybody around us sees a different stripe of us, and some people never see this other side of us. They might see a little sliver. They might know that you're a parent, but they haven't seen you in action as a parent.
Hmm.
And then, you bring your kids to the company picnic, and now they see a little bit more of that because they see you acting as a mother in that role. And our kids know what you do for work, but until they come to the bring your kids to work day, they don't see
Hmm.
you acting. And now they go, wow, mom has a lot on her plate. And yet when we compare, we're seeing that stripe that we want in each person, and we expect those to all come together and be perfect. And yet we don't also see this person has negative thoughts in the back of their head. They, maybe their finances are a mess. Maybe their relationship is horrible. Maybe they wear the best clothes to the office and they go home and they're trying to cover whatever's going on in the rest of their life. So we don't see everything, but we compare what we want to see. And the problem comes in that we judge ourselves against that, which is so brutal because we don't give ourselves that out. I love Melissa Hughes in one of our conversations said we constantly have other people's highlight reels, like we're replaying their highlight reels all the time, seeing the best in them. But in our head, we're replaying the blooper reel over and over again. So we're
Hmm.
seeing the worst in ourselves and the best in others, and that divide is is what we see as a miss in our self-worth.
Hmm. Hmm. And again, as a coach, I'm forever curious about why that is.
Hmm.
Like, and I don't know if even, the most experienced neuropsychologist could help us to figure that out.
Right.
And it's likely that you and I have asked this question to our clients as coaches. How would you treat your best friend?
Hmm.
And are there times that you can recall in your life when you were thinking less than positive thoughts about something you had done or something you had said, or for whatever
Right.
time in your life, how I could have handled that differently, and how you navigated through that?
Right. Yeah. One of the things is being very aware of how we're talking to ourselves. Like you said,
Mhm.
are we talking to ourselves the way we would talk to someone we really love?
Yeah,
I, there are strangers I have been much nicer to than I've been to myself.
right.
And I really appreciate that you call out like there are very experienced neuroscientists who knows the answer to some of these things.
Yeah.
I think the key is continuing to ask the question and to be aware of the dialogue we're having.
Hmm.
I just the other day I made a video about this. I was trimming my mustache and I
Mm.
nicked it and it went a little bit wonky. So then I have this weird line, and the instant thought in my head was, I can't let someone see me like this. I can't, approach a stranger and say hi. Heaven forbid, I went to a speaking event and my head goes to, they're not going to believe anything I say. They're not going to value my message. They're not going to take me seriously. In the
Yeah.
split second, and now the difference now is that I realize that that's not right. I realize
Hmm.
the danger in that, and I know that I still need to show up. And also, if someone's judging me at that level, I don't want them in my life. Like they're not my people. And I don't look at other people that way, so I don't know why I think they would look at me that way.
Yeah.
Yet that's where our head goes to. And so I think the difference is you don't have to have that answer on why, but being aware when it happens so that you can, instead of saying I am these things,
Hmm.
I can now say, I'm not being really nice to myself right now. I'm thinking in
Yeah.
the wrong way. I need to change the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that allows me to step out and not believe it as a fact. It's not
Yeah.
this is my value. It's
Yeah.
this is the way my brain is working right now. For some reason, my
Hmm.
headspace is not doing me any favors, and that's the work I need to do for the next couple hours. It's not fixing my mustache, it's fixing my headspace.
By the way, how did your mustache go? It looks pretty good today.
Yeah, the next day I was able to get it, you know, come back in a new light. That's the thing is coming back in a new light and be like, okay, I got it trimmed up just enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was yeah.
Yeah. I'm
I,
glad you didn't cancel
right,
because, that would have been horrible if you said, well, I can't show up today because, I screwed up my
right.
mustache.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just but and I wanted to share that in the moment too for people to know that just because I say own your awkward, it doesn't mean, you know what, 10 years ago I figured out this message to own your awkward and I've never had a negative thought since. That's not what it means. It means no, I'm more aware most days.
Yeah.
There still are days where the thoughts creep in because our brains work faster than we can consciously keep up with.
Oh, it's
So,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. But I do as much practicing as I can to be aware of, oh, you know, that guy in my head is not being nice to me right now, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to accept that. I need
Mm-hmm.
to just put him in the corner and say, okay, you come
Yeah.
back when you're being nicer.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. And I think you also know Susan Sneath, my um one of my very dear friends, and
Hmm.
we co-hosted the Change Zone together a few years back.
Yeah.
You've probably seen her on the friendship bench as well, I'm sure. And we did have an episode about the inner critic and
Mm.
how it just is. It's ruthless, it's relentless, and I do agree with what you said about, the sort of the more aware you become, the more awkward you can be, because with awareness comes the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Right.
and all of the
Yeah.
above. And so we shared with our audience that maybe it's a good idea to give your inner critic a name and just, like you said, like, I don't need you right now. Thanks for showing up.
Hmm.
Um, I know that's, you're there for a reason. You're there to protect me. Because that's what happened from cave people days, right? We had that,
Right.
but everything we worry about is not necessarily a saber-toothed tiger.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
so, yeah.
I named my inner critic Block after I read Valerie Gordon's book, Fire Your Narrator. I don't know if you've heard that book,
No, but
but
it sounds really interesting. I was going
it's
to
a
say
great book.
familiar,
It's
but it's
called
not.
Fire Your
Yeah.
Narrator, and she
Okay.
talks about um, how our inner critics. She calls out 10 different styles of inner critics or
Hmm.
inner narrators, and some are critics. Some are actually too positive, like they're telling you can do the things that maybe you shouldn't. Like there's different voices in our
Ah,
head, and that many
right.
times that voice is a combination of a few different things.
Oh, okay.
And uh, so her inner critic voice is Squash, and she's not going to believe him because Squash puts an end to everything.
Yeah.
I named mine Block because whenever I get a little bit cocky or confident or think I can do something, Block is always there to get in the way and say you can't do that.
Ah,
But I can also stand on Block and rise up and lift me up if I
wow.
use them as a lifter.
Wow. I love that. I love that. That's really a great metaphor for sure. Standing on the block.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
and that's with the Own You're Awkward, when we have that thing that weighs us down, it's a similar idea. I think instead of it being something that weighs us down, it's
Hmm.
a springboard that gives us a boost. And
Hmm.
the same thing can be viewed different ways, and we need to learn to see it differently. And that's why so much of what I do with coaching and speaking is really about helping people just see things from a different perspective so that it can, the event itself isn't going to change. The where we come from isn't going to change. How we
Hmm.
view it and where we take it and how we can use it to our advantage can really be dynamic. And that's where that powerful shift can come in.
Oh, Andy, what would you say to someone who has yet to become aware that they have the power or the control to really give themselves permission to think in different ways?
Mm,
Because sometimes I've experienced people who um, admittedly say they lack self-confidence and are afraid to even consider what what might be a different perspective and how they could begin to look at things differently.
sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of going and finding the evidence. And it
Oh,
can be as simple as write out a list of everything you have learned how to do in life. Did
mm-hmm,
you learn how to speak English? Did you learn how to boil an egg? Did you learn how to walk? You're gonna not be able to think of everything you've learned how to do and
mm-hmm,
master. Every single one of those is a success. And it's sometimes it's we tend to back to that comparison, we tend to say, well, I didn't get to this space or I didn't hit this goal. Well, in the pursuit of getting to the thing you were aiming for, how many lessons did you learn along the way? How much do
mm-hmm,
you now know how to do that you didn't know how to do before, even if the outcome wasn't what you were targeting? So creating that list really helps get you there. And when you another thing I'm a big fan of re-looking at things that we already know. I think of the word struggle. And when we think about struggling and going through hard times, it's really simple. We get this image in our head of someone not doing well, and a lot of times we think of struggle as weakness. Yet if you look up the word in the at least in the Webster's dictionary version, when you look up the word struggle, it says to proceed forward with violent effort or to move forward with violent effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you are moving forward with that much passion and effort and the strength that requires,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing that's weak about that. And so when we relook at the definition of how we're defining ourselves, we might not have ever looked the word up in the dictionary. We might not have ever actually taken the time to step back and say, what do the words mean that I'm using to define myself? And is that really true? And now when you look at someone who's struggling, it's like, man, that person's a rock star because they're still in the fight. They're still in the game. And if I can give myself credit for every lesson I learned along the way and count that as a success, if I can give myself credit for everything that I've done, even if it wasn't down the path I thought I was going to go, now I start to see, you know what, if I did that, I can also do this other thing, or I can also try this other thing. I don't know where life's going to take me, but why not give it a try? And then start with something that that isn't so far out of, I'm not going to go try to fly an airplane, but maybe I'll try to drive a different car that I haven't driven before, or work my way up. Or if I want to fly an airplane, maybe the first time I do it, it's going to be obviously with someone who's going to teach me and who has been there. So there's, getting that support system, kind of coming back to what we talked about earlier with not feeling alone in the fight. There are people who are in your corner, and it's a matter of instead of looking away at the people that you're chasing and taking a step back and looking around you and who's already there ready to hold your hand, lean into that and you can do amazing things. We just sometimes are targeting the wrong things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts about the likelihood that many of us possibly have unrealistic expectations about how quickly we should arrive at something? Like
Right.
it's, when something is very transactional, so you go to university, you're in there for how many years, you do these certain things, you take these classes, you get a degree.
Hmm.
And sure, there's going to be ups and downs, and you might fail a course, another course you'll do amazing in. But when you're in the university of life and you're struggling and you understand that there's, struggling, with your eye on the prize, like how how do sometimes we overlook our expectations because we have that kind of instant gratification, or we want the
Right.
gratification sooner than we actually have earned it. Um, and when I look back, I mean, I've been doing what I've been doing for quite some time, like 2 decades. And I look back and go, holy cow, that was, there were some times when it was like, what am I doing? And you
Right.
probably relate to that because you've also you started and
Yeah.
you've been on your
Hmm.
own. It's like, okay, so no clients, huh? Okay, well, what do I do
Hmm.
now?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
what about the expectation piece of it?
Yeah. I think number one, our biggest disappointments come because we have expectations.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm a big fan of lowering your expectations
Hmm.
without lowering your standards.
Wow.
So we need to still strive for a certain
Hmm.
level,
Hmm.
and we need to accept only a certain level into our life.
Hmm.
But I can go to lunch with somebody, or maybe it's a guy I want to go on a date with, and I show up, I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, in the past when I was new at the dating game, I remember thinking, he's gonna be the one. We had this conversation online, all the boxes were checked. This is great.
Uh,
And I go in there with all these high expectations,
hmm.
and then there's no chemistry. No
Yeah.
fault of the other person, just
Hmm.
we're not. It wasn't like Gail and Andy chemistry where we met and instantly connected.
Yeah.
And all of that disappointment, I wanted to project onto them as being a disappointment, but it was really my own expectations in my head
Mm.
on what I set up. Now I could lower the bar and say, well, I'm willing to let all these other things into my life that are less than what I would be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I need to keep my standards high on the people I bring into my life, whether that's a partner or a friendship or the job we're accepting. I
Mm-hmm.
need to keep my standards at a certain level, but not expect to get that level when I go in. So I don't, it's just, if it works out, great. If this is my standard and that's where I'm gonna get to, and if this isn't the one, I'll keep at it. So there's that element of number one, really being aware of where we're setting that. And I think when you talk about the element of time, it's so hard because time is out of our control, and
Mm-hmm.
we you're right. Instant gratification is a real thing that we all struggle with. I
Mm-hmm.
have had that struggle with my own business where you think there's not any clients or enough clients, or and like you said, sometimes no clients, and you're thinking I don't know what's coming next in a good or bad way. Sometimes you know the bad, the
Mm-hmm.
bills are coming, but you don't know what's going to get you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet what we don't do enough is pause and look back at where we were a few years ago and look at, if 5 year ago Andy, if 2000, if 2020 Andy looked at me today, if they looked me up and saw my website and my activity and the things that I'm doing and the images of me on different stages, 2020 me or 2018 me, along the way, I'd have been like, that's the guy I want to be. That's where I
Mm.
want to get to. Because 2020 me didn't know the struggles that 2025 me has behind the scenes. It's just like when
Yeah.
we look at those other people and only see the good slice, you know, that version of me would be looking at someone in my shoes now and think that's exactly the life I want to live, and yet not knowing all the things that are still at play.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we don't give ourselves credit for how far we've come and the success we've had
Mm-hmm.
because we're so caught up in the moment. And as entrepreneurs especially,
Mm-hmm.
because you are an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
because you are constantly pursuing more and greater and growth, like that's part of the definition is you're just always trying to grow things.
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept that you're never going to be satisfied because as soon as you get to that space,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to start pursuing the next level. So we have to at some point step back and say, okay, where did I come from and where am I now? And see that as success and just enjoy that for a minute before we take that next step of growth or even, kind of, maybe it's okay, once a month, I'm just going to check in and say, wow, look at how much we've grown. You think about when you're climbing up a mountain. I've used this before. I've seen other people kind of use this metaphor, but you're climbing up the mountain, your eye is on the summit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's always ahead of you. And it's just so far in the distance, and you feel like you're never getting there, and you're frustrated. But if you stop and turn around and look at the view, you don't see how high up you've actually traveled.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is one circumstance where looking back is a good thing.
Hmm.
Living in the past is not the best place to be, like if you're living with regret, but to look back for the reason of measurability. Because
Yeah.
how else do we know how far we've come
Hmm.
if we don't look at where we started?
Right. Yeah.
And you've made me think, and uh, and I'm certain that some people in the audience will be thinking as well. It's like, whoa, I don't do enough of that. And
Mhm.
things like, say, your first website. Like when I think of my first website, it's like, wow, no wonder I had no clients, right?
Right.
It looked
Yeah.
like it was done by a 4-year-old.
Mhm.
And that was
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
not
Same
not
here.
very,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Until I could afford to have someone do it. And now it's
Hmm.
different. But
Right.
it's kind of like no matter what level you get comfortable until you're not.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
all we have in that, I love how you say a lone-preneur situation is ourselves. And
Yeah.
we don't get an annual review. We don't have a boss that says, "Yay, good job." Like,
Right.
so what the
Mhm.
heck?
Yeah.
And it's even people who are in corporate or no matter where you're working or as a parent, as you said, look at what you've done. Look at how you've raised your kids. Look at how you've maintained your home. Look at how you've managed to have great relationships in your work. We tend to dismiss those things.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
And one thing when you talk about not having that chance to have the boss give you your annual review,
Hmm.
there are times where I have gone to a coffee shop,
Hmm.
sat there with myself, and thought, if I was having a weekly check-in with my sales manager from back
Yeah.
when I was in sales, what questions would they be asking me? What would I have to bring to the table for this meeting? And then I would have to make myself prepare those answers to be accountable to myself. Now, this is where it's great to have an accountability partner. I have
Yeah.
an amazing accountability partner, another podcast host, coach, business friend who
Hmm.
we're meeting on Friday. And this is, we both lift each other up and we say sometimes, I'm going to push back on that. You didn't
Yeah.
try hard enough, or you can't give up here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Marie's going to tell me that. And I know, and sometimes before you even see them, you know what they're going to say. So you're going, okay, before I go, I'm going to at least do these things. And sometimes
Yeah.
it catches you off guard because you're like, oh, darn it, she's right. But,
Yeah.
it's like we have to create that somehow because you're right. We don't have it by the nature of what we're doing.
Hmm. Hmm. I love it. I love it. Accountability is so critical. And is there enough of it in life in general, not just if you're an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but in your experience, do you see where perhaps there could be more accountability in corporate in general?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think yes and no. I think there are some places I think the no is when people use it the wrong way.
Ah,
They use accountability as punishment. Like we're gonna hold people accountable. We're gonna
okay.
set these lines, and they words can be dangerous because there's interpretations to words and to the messages behind them. Where we get excited about something, we say, "Well, this is our new thing." So I think that there's a lot of room for accountability for us to be accountable to ourselves and
Yeah.
to grow how we're doing. And I think that every corporation is so different in what how their culture is and how they
Yeah.
grow their management. I can tell you that when I've left organizations, it's been because of the either the where how the leadership was or how I
Hmm.
was expected to lead the people uh, that I managed. And I remember the first time that really dawned on me. Um, I started my career in grocery, and we had implemented all these new, more corporate level programs. I had started with a chain that was local and had grown into being part of a major chain. And all of a sudden it's, well, the checker has to check people out at a certain speed. And if they're not doing it at this speed, they're not doing their job. And I had this gal who was everybody's favorite checker, who was probably in her 60s, who people would wait in line to go through her check stand because she knew your kids' name. She knew
Oh,
where you went on vacation 3 years ago and that
yeah.
you're going back to the same place and what your favorite meal is and the recipe for the
Yeah.
roast that you're buying. And
Oh,
everyone loved her.
yeah.
And I was supposed to be, giving her warnings for checking too slow. And I thought, this is not right. And if I'm expected to manage somebody in a way that is out of line with myself,
Hmm.
this I can't stay here. And now I wasn't in a position to say, a 28-year-old me say, you know what, on principle, I'm out of here. I had
Yeah.
3 kids at home, like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it in the moment. But
Yeah.
when I looked back on why I left the organization, it took a couple more years before I left. But really, it was that defining moment where I said,
Hmm.
oh, that was actually the beginning of me realizing that culture wasn't there. And so I think sometimes we need to have higher accountability for what we accept in our lives.
Hmm.
And every time that I have been disappointed with myself, I really try not to live in a space of regret.
Hmm.
But the lessons that were the harder lessons
Hmm.
were when I didn't stay true to my own self and let someone else kind of it affect me as far as how I should show up. And whether that was my wife, my ex-wife, or a boss, where they say, this is how you need to manage a situation. I was like, instead of saying, that's not how I roll. That's not me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
because before I started owning my awkward, my whole goal was, well, if someone says that's how I'm supposed to be, that's how I'm supposed to show up. If they're telling me in this situation I'm supposed to be a certain way, my whole goal was to show up, not rock the boat, and blend in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never about, you know what, I have a different perspective and there's value to that, and this is what I'm going to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking back, I was the villain in some people's stories. I wasn't the best boss. I wasn't the best partner. There's times where I can look back and say, man, I wish that wasn't part of my history. But had I not have that as part of my history, then I wouldn't be as passionate about what I do now, and I wouldn't understand it as well. So that's, if I had that accountability for myself, sure, a lot of things would be smoother. But I
Mm-hmm.
also I wouldn't have met you. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right?
There wouldn't be an own your awkward. So I have to appreciate that for what it brought me to.
Yeah. 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 And to some degree, Andy, do you feel that in some ways, depending on the situation, that by you being your awkward, owning your awkward,
Mhm.
I'll stick with that phrase, that is it likely that other people might have, I'm hoping people do, also learn something from that? Because if,
Definitely. And
yeah, sorry,
yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, definitely, because
Hmm.
I think about people in my story where I wish they had a different interaction with me,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know the rest of their story. I don't
Yeah.
know if that allowed them to be treated better by other people.
Hmm.
I don't know if that allowed them to say, "Man, that guy was a jerk. I'm not going to let someone
Hmm.
like that in my life anymore."
Yeah.
And not that I would like to say I wasn't a complete jerk all the time, but there's just
Hmm.
moments.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where their story takes them. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that turned out to be the thing that was good. It's one of my other book is about mastering change, and I talk a lot
Hmm.
about change and work with people on change because I've been through, in one year I had come out divorced, started over, lost my job, started my business. Like it was all in one. Like it was
Hmm.
a so that's why I focus on life change coaching. And when I
Hmm.
talk about change, we want to immediately identify it as good or bad. And that's same with
Hmm.
interactions with people. We want to say that was a good thing or a bad thing. Well, it
Yeah.
might not have felt that great, but it might have been the
Yeah.
best thing.
Yeah.
And with change, it can be that way where
Hmm.
in the moment we want to put a definition on it, yet we don't know till years down the road whether that led us towards more positive or more negative outcomes.
Hmm.
And even then, the negative outcomes could have led to big life lessons that led to it's like when people
Hmm.
say, "Oh, I got fired. It was the best thing ever." And it's the last thing
Yeah.
you want to hear when you are the one being fired.
Yeah.
However, years down the road, again, that's led me to all the things I'm doing now.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, life can be messy, and yet we always have a broom and a dustpan and a vacuum and some
Right.
cleaner.
Yeah, exactly.
What are the tools?
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering about though, because you've been graciously open about the things that happened to you within 1 year, that's
Hmm.
a lot. And
Right.
according to some experts, change is more challenging when you don't have time to adapt to the something that's happened and then something else piles up and
Hmm.
something else piles up. So what could you share with our audience, Andy, that would give them a little bit of hope or solace that if you feel things are happening like so closely all at once, what could you tell them that would
Right.
make them feel like they have a little bit of control?
I I think that the lesson that I learned, and it
Hmm.
was a hard lesson,
Hmm.
was that you can't fix everything at once. It comes back to that
Hmm.
idea of time, and we want it all done right away, and we want the results. But we can always do one thing. We can always do something. When I was at the worst part, I say this all the time because it was like for me rock bottom. I remember exactly when it was, and it wasn't because it was a specific time. It's because it was the same day over and over and over again, where I would wake up in the morning saying, "Oh God, when is it going to get better?" And finally one day it snapped, and I said, "Well, what did you do different yesterday
Oh,
that would make today any better? And if you didn't do anything different, then how did you expect today to be any different?" And that's not to say you have to do anything major. Maybe it's, I'm gonna go outside for 10 minutes.
yeah,
Maybe I'm gonna call a friend and talk to them. Maybe I'm gonna turn off my phone and just sit in peace for 15 minutes. Like we can always do one thing. And so when we're feeling overwhelmed, and same thing with my business, with entrepreneurs, it's if I can do one thing a day for my business, and that one thing might be a social media post. It
yeah,
might be scheduling a meeting for next week. It might be returning a phone call. But if I can do one thing a day that touches my business or one
hmm,
thing that moves my life in the direction I want it to go, at
hmm.
the end of the year, you've done 365 things. And on a leap
Wow.
year, you get a bonus thing.
Yeah.
So,
I can't wait for leap year now. I got to think
right?
about what my bonus thing is going to be.
Yeah. So it's like, so if you think
Yeah.
about it, could you imagine doing almost 400 things to make your life better?
Hmm.
And that's all just from doing one thing a day. And chances are there's going to be multiple days where you do 20 things or two things or one really big thing.
Yeah.
Yet it doesn't have to be. And if you could just at least get one thing done, no matter how small. So when it's really overwhelming, we tend to want to get rid of the overwhelm and like clear the clouds away.
Yeah.
And yet our biggest strength and confidence boost is going to be from having a win. And that win is going to come from whatever the smallest thing we can do.
Yeah.
Um, so
So perspective.
definitely.
Hmm.
And even
Hmm.
when I talk about, you know, so many of us work on gratitude journals and being grateful. It's so
Hmm.
important for our mindset.
Hmm.
I challenge people instead of thinking, I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for the roof over my head. I'm grateful for all these things, which
Hmm.
are awesome. And we talk about
Hmm.
being grateful for family and friends. Those are big, beautiful things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
But I like to challenge people to think of the very smallest thing you can be grateful for right now. Like I
Oh,
can breathe without a respirator. I can go outside and there's not so much smog where I live that I can actually breathe fresh air, or
yeah.
I can drink fresh water. And all of a sudden you start to realize just how many things there are
Hmm.
around us and think, I put on clean socks this morning and they were
Hmm.
comfortable. Whatever that little
Hmm.
tiny thing is. And then you realize not everyone in the world has that.
Yeah.
And it is a very basic small thing for us. Yet, then it kind of puts it in perspective when you don't have the car you want, or you don't have, your boss talk to you in a way that you didn't like. And you're like, I don't
Hmm.
care. I can still have a glass of water and stay alive and put my head on the pillow at night and I have a warm blanket. Well,
Yeah. Yeah. In our meeting before the show, we talked about comparing. And I honestly can't recall if we talked about it today. I don't remember if we did talk about it that we recorded or we talked about it
sure.
before.
Yeah. We've covered some great topics. So definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you speak about that, it's well, there's two things that you've made me think about with what you just said in the last couple of minutes. It's firstly the comparing.
Hmm.
And then, secondly, the degree of importance we give a word. You talked about good or bad. Like, is something ever really good? Is it good? Or if it's good, if it's not good, does it mean it's bad? Or is it good, but
Sure.
is it maybe like 3% good? Like that
Hmm.
kind of dialing the buttons. We talked about a soundboard in our pre-show meeting and dialing it up or down, like to what
Yeah.
degree. And you shared
Right.
your mom saying, it's fine, everything's fine, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But how fine? Like, are you a little fine
Hmm.
or are you a lot fine? And exactly what does that mean?
Right. And I I think with words too, and you touched on good and bad, and I think about, well, that can be different. One day the same thing for a person can be good one day and not so good the next day, depending on where we're at in life and what we need.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I think about things too, like if I offered you a piece of black licorice, one person's going to say, "Yay, I love that," and another person's going to say, "That is bad." Like,
Yeah,
it's all subjective,
it
and
is.
some people are going to be really excited about it, and some people are going to be really not excited about it, and just get that
Yeah.
away from me and have this adverse reaction. And there's sometimes people who are just indifferent. Yet, life experiences we don't give ourselves the same grace to view them the same way, and
Ah,
sometimes it's because of our expectations, like we talked about earlier. Sometimes
yeah.
we decide, if you hear people say something like, "Oh, the lotto's not big enough to play; it's only $1 million." Like, after
Yeah.
taxes, I'd only get $500,000. I'm like, I don't know anybody that would say no to five hundred thousand
Yeah.
dollars. I wouldn't say no to $1,000. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
but we get this idea in our head
Yeah.
that it's not enough or it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Why? If you remove
Yeah.
that comparison, would you say no if someone said, "Here's $50 even?" Like, I'd be like,
No.
sure, great. I got a
Yeah.
couple free meals out of that, or 10 free coffees, whatever. But
Yeah.
yet that thing, like in some respects, if we scanned a lotto ticket and it was $50, we could say, well, that was bad. I didn't win $1 million. Or we could say, wow, I didn't expect to get anything out of that. But it's why isn't it just what it is? It's, sure, maybe there's other things that could be bigger. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we look at life experiences, whether it's, sometimes we compare the friend groups that other people have.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we compare the financial situation. And it really just comes down to the people that I'm really envious of are the people that are just content and happy. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not about what they have going on. It's
Mm-hmm.
as an entrepreneur, the thing that I do have some jealousy of. I will admit this freely. When I meet a business owner and they start talking about things and they say, "Oh, I don't even have social media. I don't even have a website. I get all of my customers through referrals. I have a phone number. I don't even have business cards." I've met some people like that very recently,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, I am so envious of that situation. It's not because
Yeah.
they have all the things. It's because
Yeah.
they're so content and they just operate exactly who they are and they
Mm-hmm.
don't do all the chasing. That to me is the thing to be envious of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. That's an interesting point. What do you think that's about?
Well, there's a certain level of confidence that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a like, I never considered myself a confident person. And that's from my own
Yeah.
headspace
Yeah.
that I was in. And until,
Mm-hmm.
for the first 40 years of my life, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in my own space.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 10 years, I've been doing all this work to own it and to lean into it. And even then, in the last year, somebody referred to me as just being so confident, and I thought that was new to me. I'm like, that's not. What are you talking about? I'm the awkward guy. I'm not the confident guy. Yet yet it's because of the awkwardness that allows me to come across confident because anything awkward doesn't bother me. Like I'm so awkward now it's dangerous. Like I'm so confident with the awkward that it's like it kind of throws people off. I'm like, "Oh, that bothers you? What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a whole journey.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love the fact that you are confident about the awkward.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
it's
that is where the confidence, that's for you, that's what it's about. And not that, you need my approval, but I'm just saying for anybody that like that's just okay. Like own your
right.
awkward and own yourself.
hmm I was in a uh, conversation with somebody and something came up and they just said, "I don't know."
Hmm.
Just like that. Whatever the question was, they
Hmm.
said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And it might have even been more to the statement of, "Oh, tell me about it. I don't know anything about that. Or I'm not
Hmm.
familiar with this."
Hmm.
And in that moment, I realized, one of the most confident things you can do is say, "I don't know," and be
Yeah.
willing to explore and not
Hmm.
pretend like you know everything and pretend like
Hmm.
you can do everything. And
Hmm.
um, it just is a mind shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about something that you could share with folks, maybe even a couple of key points as we wrap up, um, that would help them be okay w with who they are truly. Like, who do they really want to be at that
hmm
very deep level without comparing, without, beating themselves up, without looking back at all the past mistakes, what would you tell people in a few statements to get
Yeah,
started?
that's a great question, and no pressure on that question either. I
Sorry.
No, this is totally great. And it's always interesting sometimes when this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I
Yeah.
do, and then it's okay, be succinct, put it in a bullet point, and I think, oh, I
Yeah.
don't know. I write
It
books, I
is a
don't write bullet points,
challenge. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
However, I would say first, be kind to yourself
Mm.
and really take a step back and look
Hmm.
at yourself the way you would look at a 3 or 4 year old who is learning the ropes in life. And
Yeah.
we don't beat them up when they misstep or when they trip because we know that they're
Hmm.
learning and we know that they are not fully equipped for everything. And as much as we want to
Hmm.
be the macho adults that have had all the lessons, we are still learning. And so we need
Yeah.
to give ourselves that compassion and that grace.
Hmm.
And and when we step into that space where we do start to compare,
Hmm.
to remember we're meeting everybody else in different parts on the road. Sometimes I'll be out for a walk or I might be jogging and I see someone and I'm walking and I'm like, I should speed up so they know I'm actually running. It's like, well, they don't know that I might have just ran a mile, or I might see someone
Hmm.
walking and they might have run a mile, or they might be walking and maybe they just have gotten to the point where they can walk as far as they are going. Like we don't
Yeah.
know what part of the journey someone is on,
Yeah.
yet we get in that headspace. So be kind to yourself when you are looking at other people and know we don't know where
Hmm.
on the road they are, and they don't know where on the road we have been and are trying to get to,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter. We're where we are, and that's okay. And know that the lessons that we're experiencing, like when we have setbacks, when we have things happen, it's not a loss. It's, well, now I know how to handle that in the future. Well, now
Yeah.
at least I know this is part of my tool bag. Every setback, everything that didn't work out, that's
Hmm.
just part of your tool bag. Like when I
Hmm.
started over at 40, I left with what I could put in the trunk of my car. Didn't want
Hmm.
to, we didn't divvy up the house. I left the house as intact for the kids as possible. Like we just, I didn't want to be any more disruptive as possible. So I started over renting a room with, my clothes and
Hmm.
essentially. And I remember thinking, man, I'm starting with nothing. And then I looked back and thought, when I was 18 and moved out of my parents' house, I had the same amount of stuff. But now I know what I'm doing. I have all of the lessons of the last 30 years. Like I'm not starting from scratch because I have the experience. And it's a lot easier the second time when
Hmm.
you have that experience and those lessons. So if you have a setback or you have something that doesn't work out, know that that's actually really powerful because when you go back around the block and you experience that thing again, you're not going to step in the same puddle or trip on the same spot because you've learned that
Yeah.
lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And there are no lessons learned if risk isn't taken
Definitely. Yeah.
and action isn't taken. So, any closing thoughts, Andy? This has been so good. I can't thank you enough.
Well, Gail, I would first just like to thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure, an amazing conversation. Your questions are so insightful and making me think on my feet about, oh, like, wait, where's that going? So I really appreciate it. And I would just say to everybody out there, you are more awesome than you give yourself credit for, and
Yeah.
lean into those quirks and just know
Hmm.
that when you feel funny about something, it's better just to say, you know what, I'm feeling a little awkward right now, and
Yeah.
here's a reason why.
Hmm.
And now we can move forward together and move our conversation, our relationship, and our connection to the
Yeah.
next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't try and hide it. And I think you had
Exactly.
said that earlier, like the when you talked about the mustard stain on your
Hmm.
shirt. Like if you try and hide it, it's like, well, what are you hiding is what someone might think. I mean, it's obvious
Yeah.
there's a mustard stain, but if you're kind of
Right.
like putting your jacket over your
Yeah. Trying to
shirt.
hold your jacket, hold your tie to the side.
Yeah,
Like, why is your
exactly.
tie all the way over there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Introduce the elephant in the room.
Mm,
Because it's just hard to hide an elephant. So,
definitely.
be who we are and do what we do and hopefully we'll make some mistakes along the way that we learn by. So, great
Exactly.
having you, Andy. I can't wait to hook up with you again. And
Likewise.
yeah, and where can we find you if people would like to connect with you, buy your books? Where are you? Where are you hanging out?
Definitely. So my website's awkwardcareer.com, and
Hmm.
I'm very active on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. You can find me if you look up Own Your Awkward or awkwardcareer.com, my stuff will come right up.
Perfect. Okay. I love the one-stop shopping. That's awesome.
I try to make it easy.
Yeah, all right. Take good care, Andy. We'll see you next time, folks, on Blind Spots, and have a really good rest of your day.